The Modern Jeeper Show, the show about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers.
Well, hey, Modern Jeepers, another episode of the Modern Jeeper Show with me, Matson from Metal Cloak, and Mr. Modern Jeeper, Corey Osborne.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Rockstar Jeep Girl, Jessy.
Hello.
Hey, I noticed your shirt you're wearing today.
It's my favorite shirt.
Nice. So that obviously honors one of our guests. Now, we do have guests. This is our annual roundtable. I was kind of going back through last year's roundtable, which we had a completely different crew than we usually do. And there were a few things that we kind of said in that, and I actually didn't even make notes here, but I have to say that nothing's really changed. Like, I know for me, I talked about wheeling more. And how many wheeling trips did I do this year? Corey?
What?
Yeah. So something about like kids and business and stuff I don't get. Dennis was looking at me like, who the hell are you?
Right. Like, what do you do?
What are you in this business for if you're not out wheeling? I mean, so Larry, did you wheel this year? Yeah. And John,
not as much as I should have, but I did go out a lot.
John, did you wheel this year in 2023?
I did quite a bit.
Corey and Jessy, did you wheel this year?
Little bit. Yeah, we'd like to get out a little bit more, but I don't know if that's possible.
And Dennis, of course, you did. Yeah, a lot. I heard about you. So for all of our listeners, this is a great roundtable because, like, 4 out of 5 Dennis prefer. In this case, 4 out of 5 wheelers is a good thing. So I'm just going to be the moderator because obviously I don't know anything. This is great. We love doing this and starting out the year this way because we talk about what happened in 2023 and we're going to talk about what's going on in 2024. There were some big things that happened in 2023. We'll kind of give our feedback on and what we expect and then kind of what we see 2024 being, obviously, whether it's the economy and how our customers and our industry, media, how we see that evolving. There was a lot of discussion last year about media and how that would change. And because we had Ian and John talking about the evolution of that, we kind of look at this from a standpoint of Larry's like in front of the customers all the time. John is still media, and Dennis is another perspective in industry because Dennis Wood with TerraFlex. I realize we're just talking on. I didn't actually introduce anybody here. So We'll start with Dennis Wood because Dennis is the newest member of the podcast. He has not been on the podcast before, which is unique for doing this particular roundtable and not actually having ever sat down and done a one-on-one with Dennis. So there isn't any past episodes you can go to and say, oh, hey, it's all about Dennis. But Dennis, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks a bunch. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that we can all just get together and do this,
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fun to do. I mean, that's the thing about this industry is reality is when it comes down to it, we all sit around the campfire. We all like to talk about wheeling. We all like to go out and do stuff. Well, at least the 4 of you guys do. I don't even know what a freaking campfire is anymore. It's that thing with a propane tank in my backyard. At John Herrick, of course, Crawl Magazine. And John, if you want to know more about John and you haven't seen this, John, let's see, has been on 4 episodes, which was episode 147, which was a roundtable, episode 70, which was a roundtable, episode 57, which was a roundtable, and episode 24, which was the flashback episode we did from being in at Off-Road Expo years and years and years ago. That's an old one. Yeah. The thing is, I realized we haven't actually had a episode where it was just you talking about you. Like, other than that little flashback episode, like how come that never happened?
Why don't you watch Dennis's podcast that had me?
Yeah,
it was all about me.
It was all about you, right? So
yeah, I think it was like nine straight minutes of just me.
Well, Dennis, what's the name of your podcast?
We just threw this thing up. We didn't even do an official name on it. We would just throw them up. We did it for quite a while, and then it was like, all right, we got to drag some people in here. So then it was like, all right, now we're starting to interview our own customer service guys. Maybe we ought to branch this out, So, yeah,
was that a COVID response thing?
Yeah, it probably was. Yeah, it was. It was doing well. It's one of those. This is working pretty well. Let's stop.
Well, you have your new corporate. I don't want to use the word overlords because that would be improper. But you have your new, corporate vision. The corporate vision, is that the correct answer? The corporate vision.
Wow, that's pretty warm and friendly. I like that.
By the way, I have a question for you. I've meant to ask this to you. Like, I don't know how many of you know that, but like shortly after COVID started, Dennis's wife started making masks. Like, how long did you guys make and sell masks?
We didn't sell them. We just
made them.
She took a big batch, and people needed them. We had a bunch of friends. We just shipped them all over the place. Yeah, awesome. She was a factory.
When people started doing that, I was like, I'm thinking, oh, why would you start doing that? It's only going to last a couple of weeks, right? All right, and then of course we have Larry McCrae, friend of the show, been on with us. Gosh, I think actually, yeah, you hold the record. 5 episodes.
Really?
So, episode 147, wow. Episode 98, episode 70, episode 57, and then the original interview was episode number 7.
Wow!
Like we had at least 10 friends we knew we could call and get on the show, and you were number 7.
And look at you now.
Yeah. Now we can't get anybody on the show except for these type of things. Most of our shows lately have been like, me, Corey, and Jesse sitting around going, "Hey, you got any questions for us?" Because we don't know what to do.
I get to talk to Matson usually once a week, and usually it's during the podcast. And literally, we don't talk for the week after a podcast, and then it's like, "Hey, what are you doing? I don't know. Are we recording? Should we talk on the side? No, let's just record it." And it's fun because then I don't have to see or hear from him again for a week.
Yeah, wow. That's it. It's perfect. It's a great relationship. The podcast with my wife. No, oh, sorry, didn't mean to say that. She listens. I love you, baby. So you can go back and listen to those episodes and Larry. So basically, this roundtable, as I said, is all about just talking about things in the past, the future. Now, the first thing I want to dive into, because I think there's going to be a lot of conversation about this, is acquisitions. Obviously, we saw major acquisitions happen in 2022, but 2023 was full of the announcements of Dynatrack, Icon, Carly, all going into Randy's Ring Opinion. Even rumors that Evo has been sold. I haven't been able to confirm that, but those rumors are out there. It's like there's so much consolidation happening. And I know as a company here, we get letters and inquiries and all the time. And many of them are just like the spam email, like, "Hey, can I find anybody trying to sell a company, right? And some are very, very, very targeted. They're like, we've been talking to so-and-so, and so-and-so has you on the short list of companies, right? And so this consolidation that's occurring within our industry in 2023, it's the question is, do we see that continuing to happen? And is it going to continue to roll over? And what are the predictions in 2024? John, I want to start with you.
I was waiting for you to actually spill some beans.
No news here.
We're are
very
a few
happy.
Things that I've heard through the grapevine and that I'm not at liberty to talk about. However, I don't see it slowing down. I think there's going to be a point here in the not too distant future where the number of companies available are going to be targeted by more and more of these capital investment firms, because there's only I don't see a huge number of small companies hitting their stride in such a way that they're going to be targets yet. But there's a lot of established companies, or there's a fair number of established companies that have to have been approached multiple times by now, and they're just trying to pick the best deal. And
right.
I mean, I look at this group and I would think any one of us would be a willing target given the right number. And well, and Larry's nodding, and it's I mean, he's experienced it.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to slow down, but I think we may see higher prices simply because they're going to be trying to outbid one another. It'll be interesting.
The interesting part about it is for founders, and there's two reasons to sell, right? One is because you're having cash flow challenges and you're trying to find a way of getting out of that. The other is because you're ready to retire, right? I think Dennis over at Reed Racing, right?
Yeah.
He just sold, and for him it was retirement. Kids weren't really interested in the business, and it was time to move on. But without giving any specific details, the ones that you have, grapevine rumors about, what was surprising to me, and I'll just is right, is like, especially with like Carly, Icon, and I could see Icon more so because that was really a business move. But Dynatrack, those were ones where I was extremely surprised because I felt like they were founders that really loved doing what they were doing. So I was surprised that but the companies that you're thinking about, are there any of those kind of surprises there?
The one, there's one in particular that it's more of the founder has a huge amount of technical knowledge that's going to be a really difficult transfer after a period of time, kind of showing them the ropes, and then figuring out when does he personally leave the stage, and how many 3 a.m. phone calls will he get because the stuff they've made in his absence isn't working correctly, and risk of maybe losing market share or allowing a competitor to take some of their pie. And that's what I wonder about is how much business knowledge. There's a huge amount of business knowledge, but how much specific business knowledge is there in some of these acquiring companies? Are they going to be able to deal with the intricacies of a very specialized business where maybe that one person is the industry subject matter expert, and without him, you might be dead in the water?
Right. Well, it is interesting, and Larry can talk to this, but and I will say, like, some of the conversations we've had, because we get them all the time, is we have no interest in, as a company, going, okay, acquire us. Now we're going to sit around and continue to run it and for you for the next several years. We don't have an interest in that. So that limits the interest level in some companies because they want your technical knowledge to be around. They simply want to infuse capital, and which is not something we need in order to get to that, whatever their goal is, right? And so, for us, it's we're going to work hard to build our business, and if we're going to sell it, it's going to be because we're done and we want to retire, not continue to build it, right? So, and I know a Jim at Dynatrack, he's done, right? Like, I think he hung around for a year, and he's like, this isn't working for me, right? And so the real, like, Larry, for you, I mean, you stuck around very famously for about a year,
right?
But why?
And it was the same thing where it's hard to sell it without saying that, I'll commit to helping you for the next couple of years, or at least for a period of time. But what blew me away is that as soon as it closed, it seemed like, okay, we're coming in and we're doing it our way anyway. So, it was kind of silly for me to even be there. They were paying me a lot of money to give advice that never got taken. So, so it was very frustrating.
That's par for the course. One of my partners, he sold one of his other companies, and it's the same thing. Like, they basically hired him on to say, hey, we want you to be the head of East Coast engineering, and never took any advice, but gave him a nice fit salary for 10
Right.
years when he sold it. Yeah, it's like, which is just, I don't know, dumb. But Dennis, obviously you are experienced in that because you're in the middle of it. And you've very famous, very obviously large company. I promised Corey, I wouldn't make fun of the new name. But you're here. How is it when you're in the mix? And you're not an owner, so you're looking at it from a different perspective. But how has it been for you?
Ask if I'm an owner or not. You look at the internet, or I'll see people like, so I guess you're doing pretty good now that you sold Terraflex. Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
I see a new video. Dennis is going to get himself into a private jet and do a video there, and just so that it's like people. Do you see? There's a guy in Southern California that actually has a movie set of a private jet that he rents out to influencers, so that they can just get some video of themselves flying in a private jet. So we'll get Dennis down there. He's going to be a baller, gold chains and everything. Like, yeah, this is what happens. All right. So, but what's it like for you in this world? And do you think it's good or bad for the industry, the consolidation?
Yeah, I think the situation for each individual company is going to be the answer to the good or bad. If somebody's really struggling and all that, then it's going to be a good deal to have some cash influx, maybe get them back on their feet, let the company grow a little bit. If in our case, that wasn't it at all. It was just Mark was getting to retirement, kids. It can be with multiple kids that are involved in the thing and grandkids and everything. It gets to be kind of all right, who's going to be the guy, that's going to be the Terraflex guy or whatever. So I don't know. I think there's some of that in there, but he'd had a good run at it, growth years, just crazy growth there. And he just really peaked the market out too, so we were at our, just really peaked out there when he made the transition and made the sale. And it's like once blood's in the water, oh my gosh, like you're saying, Matson, you get a couple of people coming at you, and then it's like, oh, here comes some more. We had I don't know, 12 companies, 12 big investment groups that were all after us and stuff. So it was kind of a good spot to be in for Mark to be able to make a decision, is which one. And he kind of looked at it like, which one of these groups is going to be the one that keeps Terraflex, that we don't lose our identity, that we still have the camaraderie in the company, all of that. He was looking to have somebody that would be able to do that and keep us intact. That's a tough one too, but anyway, he got it done, and it's a great move for him. In fact, we just had his retirement party today. He just
Wow.
Really 2 years after the sale, he's like, okay, I'm officially out. And yeah, it's been a long road. That was kind of it's a tough one, you 20 years, you get to be good friends with everybody. So yeah, he won't be a ghost, but he's done.
Wow. Well, congratulations to him, having the proper and sticking around too. It sounds like he stuck around, and so they've done a pretty decent job. Obviously, there's been a lot of moves that company has made. And with the Hoodingen name now, they're going to do even more. But from the standpoint of Terraflex, are they letting you continue to grow that brand and just be as separate as possible?
Yeah, it's an interesting deal because each one of the companies in the, it was Wheel Pros, right? And then Wheel Pros actually bought Hoonigan as one of their companies. And so each one of these companies is its own entity. So each one of us is, we're, run internally, all that. Yeah, you do have the food chain that you have to deal with, but basically we all have to be profitable on our own. We're our own entities. Yeah, down, where we are sitting here in the marketing department stuff, day to day, what changed, so it's kind of been a non-event other than, when they make some management changes up and down the line, it's, you can deal with that kind of thing. But basically, they just pretty much left us alone. And I think it's, in the grand scheme of things, this is the $70 billion corporation that's Clear Lake that's over this whole thing.
Right,
and we
right.
are such a drop in the bucket. Sometimes I don't think they even know how to spell our name, So.
Well, it's funny because the rumor was that Larry's old company was going to end up under the TerraFlex umbrella. That Poison Spider body armor was going to end up as a TerraFlex product line.
Yeah, I think, and I look at some of the decisions, and that's one of them that they were looking at. I thought that's not a bad idea as far as a company that was known for being quality, and then as times changed, all the changes that went through, and how you were there, Larry, we watched it all happen. So I thought as internally here, we're like, well, that'd be flattering, that would be an awesome line to take on, because it's got a great name, and it's what it could be is I think be a good deal for us, but we're still in the water and we don't know.
Well, and the flip side of that is Transamerica destroyed it. I mean, let's be honest. They destroyed and decimated the people, and killed off the great marketing teams and management out there. I mean, they just absolutely destroyed your brand, Larry.
I agree. They the promise of being completely autonomous and just keep doing what you're doing, as long as you're making money, nobody's going to bother you. That lasted like a month, and then they started making changes, and all the changes they made were taken away from the profitability. And I said, I'm not a business degree holder, but this was working, and what we're doing now is not working. So,
common sense. You're not supposed to use common sense. No.
Yeah, and it was growing still when we sold it. It's still a profitable, very. And we were aggressively trying to develop new parts and get the volume up even more. And this year they took over, it flatlined, and then every year after that it went down to a point where I don't even know how they're making money. With the amount of overhead that they tack on, I got to pay 25% of a production manager in Chula Vista, and I've got to pay 25% of a safety guy that we saw maybe once a year, and it just got impossible to make money as Poison Spider under the Full Parts umbrella, and I think it's probably even worse now.
What about you, Corey and Jessy? When you're out on the road doing this, obviously you see this and how it changes because you're at so many events. Like, how have you seen the acquisitions affect just the customer experience at events?
We were just talking about this a couple weeks ago, and we went to a couple of events this year, and it's always been interesting. This is all of you all are all part of our family and enable us to do what we do, and it's why we enjoy doing what we do, is because we get to spend some time and get to see you people and get to see a lot of people on the road. And we went to a couple of events, and all the companies that we know and love, we'd go to talk to somebody, and oh, well, they're not here anymore. They they were let go. There was some movement, and I totally understand that.
It was tough seeing our friends go.
For a number of different companies all over the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a couple of thoughts. I mean, one, looking at just M&As, just mergers and acquisitions, a lot of these data. I have two thoughts. Number one is, it seems like a lot of these mergers and acquisitions take place at the peak of when a company is doing really well. Isn't it funny, I think, and this is for the whole group, the first of my thoughts is that they continue to not wreck, but change the company that they're acquiring at the peak. And it seems like they never come out the other side as strong as they were before. My other thought is some of these data companies are saying that for 2022 or 2023 that the volume of transactions was down about 30% over 2022. The number of transactions of acquisitions. So it's interesting when we start talking about folks like Clear Lake, like Kinderhook, and then you have these smaller acquisitions like by Real Truck that are, they acquired Gold Rhino recently. And my question, I guess, is, do you guys think that we'll see this huge these acquisitions are being done by huge companies? So you have somebody like Kinderhook, then they have Best Top, and then under Best Top, then there's PRP and Tuffy and Baja Designs and all that kind of thing. Or is it going to be the littler companies like a Real Truck, for say, not that they're small, but that they're acquiring directly, and then they just let these brands stand? This large, layered, huge scale transaction, I think, I don't know. I mean, 2024 could have some financing challenges. It's an election year. I don't know. I'm curious as what you all think about what 2024 looks like going forward, and what the industry, the aftermarket industry, looks like.
John, we can start with you. Great question, Corey.
Well, I can pick up the phone now and not know who I'm going to call. It's like Jesse mentioned, we're losing our friends. It's now I don't know who owns the company that owes me ad revenue, for instance. But like I mentioned earlier, I think we're reaching this tipping point where the number of really worthwhile candidates is shrinking, yet there's still a large number of investors that are willing to spend money with the hope of these continued meteoric increases in revenue and profit. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the course of 24, because the Fed's talking about 3 rate decreases. The economy seems to be cooking. Jobless rates are very, very low. And it just kind of makes you wonder if especially with a lot of money. I mean, a lot of people are complaining about how, yeah, I got a raise and I'm making more money than I ever have, but everything costs more.
Right.
If we actually see changes in that and rates going down in 24, then there's going to be spending. And if consumer spending is solid, most of the people I've talked to in 23 said that they were relatively spectacular numbers. Yet the investors don't seem to be backing off. So maybe they're very hopeful about 24. But again, the number of really qualified targets that they can go after, I think, seems to be shrinking a bit. And that could just garner higher prices for those owners that are willing to depart. So I think we're in for a really interesting 12 to 24 months. But I think a lot of the big name players, Poison Spider, I mean, Larry was kind of at the tip of this, the big M&A thing in off-road. But the Wheel Pros deal, which I still chuckle because they released that press on April Fool's Day. It's just what kind of crazy crap is this? And then had to do some additional research just to verify that it was a legitimate sale of the company.
So it's
probably not lost on Dennis, but yeah, it just seemed for a while there that it was like every week it was, who do you know at such and such now because so and so's gone.
Right.
But
So, how about you, Dennis? Where do you answer Corey's question? And I appreciate you touching on economics too, John, because I do want to get back to that and the economics of what we see in 2024. What do you, Dennis?
I think we've all seen the kind of a shift that's happening even at the shows that we go to, and this shift towards bigger is better kind of thing is also happening at those. Some of the smaller shows are really, they're suffering, getting smaller and smaller, and then there's a few of the bigger shows that are, and I don't know if the people have just finally said, okay, I know I can get great deals if I go to that show, that just are getting crazy busy and big, so I think the whole show thing, and then the expense of getting there with fuel prices and on and on and on. So I think maybe that's been suffering, making some of the smaller shows suffer. But yeah, as far as the industry, we haven't seen, I know that the wheel business was down quite a bit. And so as a member of this Wheel Pros entity, they thought, okay, then these guys are going to be down too. We better pull back on some stuff. Well, we weren't down. We're not down, but still, they did some of those things, which really makes it hard to keep up with it. When you lose some people. But yeah, I think I don't think it's a 100% rosy outlook coming out. We've still got Jeep's coming out with new products for us to be able to throw accessories at, which is always a good program. And you got the Bronco and some of these things, a lot of more off-road potential for a lot of companies. So I don't see a mega pullback just yet.
Larry, how about you? Now you're sitting in a different position because you have Jeeps, you have to maintain them. You have Broncos too, I think, right?
No, just Jeeps.
Just Jeeps. You got to maintain them. You get customers out there, both who are probably Jeep owners who are just renting from you, and then others that are actually renting from you or going tours. Do you see at all, like Corey's saying, is it more and more difficult to work with vendors, or have you had challenges in that area because of the situation?
Our biggest issue has been like with everybody else, it's just getting parts. If something breaks on a Jeep and Jeep itself does not have it, and it's 6 months before they get it, that's tough on business when you have a small fleet and you have one sitting for months waiting for a part. That's tough. And I don't see that getting any better. I don't see the supply chains getting much better. Seems like there are still issues with everything. And I feel like we've come to expect delays, poor customer service, paying too much, which is sad. I mean, it's pretty sad that that's the standard now. I feel like, the off-road business or the off-road community most of the businesses were run by enthusiasts that were really passionate about what they're doing and built really great parts. And I feel like that is gone. And it's probably, I think the market's pretty ripe for somebody to come in and start another enthusiast brand. And there's probably, a dozen former owners that are beyond their no compete clauses now that could put together a pretty amazing company. If I was 10 years younger.
Right.
If I wasn't enjoying my retirement in Bora Bora.
What do you mean? You're not retired. You can't retire. You just happen to be down there working in Bora Bora. That's all.
Well, yeah, our Jeep tour business kind of shuts down in after Thanksgiving, and then doesn't come back in until about spring break. So this is when we try to get all our travel in, is during the winter months. And it's nice to get out of the cold and go someplace where it's raining right now, but it's 88 or whatever. So the water's 88. So
by the way, I noticed that, you got like 2 buttons down, 3 buttons down, right?
I'm about ready to take it off because it's a little gooey out here right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you touched on economics a little bit, John, and so we can talk more about that. But where do we see 2024? What are the expectations? It's 2023 was an interesting year. I think there were definitely some ups and downs throughout our industry. I think Corey and Jesse, you'd say you let's start with you, Corey. Jesse, did you see more attendees out there, like more people, more Jeep owners and stuff at the events overall, more people coming out and trying to be a part of the community?
Well, I mean, but I got to preface this with the new Jeep owner is a lot different than any of the 5 of 6 of us would have thought the Jeep owner would ever become.
Big time.
So these big events like Dennis talked about, I mean, these are turning into just buying shows, and you know, you can throw some dirt on some pavement and all of a sudden you have an off-road course, and those are big attractions because people literally, I mean, I have some quick statistics here from August of 2023. That was the 5 millionth Jeep was produced. 5 million Jeeps. Okay, so that's Wrangler. That's not even all of the brands. That's just the Jeep Wrangler. Since 1986, there are 80% of these 5 million Jeeps still on the road. What's interesting is what we're seeing at the shows, and what you guys I think are all seeing across the industries are the new Jeep owner. This is their first Jeep. The JL was the first Jeep they ever bought. Maybe they had a JK, maybe, but the guys who evolved and girls who evolved through the sport and as an enthusiast, who had, you know, they learned to drive in a CJ, and then they had a YJ and a TJ, and the experience level, well, that's all gone. These folks are new enthusiasts. They don't really want to work. Well, I think it was Rick Payway who told us about 4 years ago, I think, that Jeep really, as a manufacturer, does not want us working on our own vehicles, because they have to abide by standards, and therefore, why should the end user be able to modify that Jeep and kind of dance around those standards that were federally mandated? So I don't know. I think that what we're seeing is the trends. There's more people going to shows. There's a lot more buyers out there. I mean, there doesn't seem to be a shortage of cash or the ability to use a credit card.
I also think the land use is getting overrun, particularly from all the new, especially UTVs.
Yeah.
So it's getting overrun tremendously from new people that have no experience, that are tearing the trails up.
And I think that's part of what we saw from COVID, where everybody was kind of locked down, and we're still under that. I'm not going to give up my freedoms anymore. I'm going to get out and I'm going to travel. It's the van life folks. It's people who can work from the road now. High speed internet is available anywhere. They don't need to sit in an office somewhere, and they can still work. But for 2024, you know, I don't really know. I don't have a good. My crystal ball is pretty. It's kind of like that Texas blizzard we were in.
So here's
the jury's still out.
Here's an interesting question then, and I'll throw it at our guests. We saw a huge double-digit drop in Wrangler and Gladiator sales in 2023, right? Some of that could be attributed to the strikes, but not all of it. So, starting with you, John, like, where do you see that trend continuing into 2024? I mean, what first off, what are your thoughts as to what caused that? And is that something we still need to be worried about?
Well, a lot of it has to do with car financing and what the tolerance is for monthly payments. At the end of the day, the general consumer that's going to buy a Jeep product, for instance, is likely going to finance it, and he's going to be on it for probably 6 years. And you know, I priced out. I have a 2012 JK 2-door, and it's pretty well built, but it's just it was a nicely equipped Rubicon in 2012 that sold sticker $35,000. 12 years later, a 2024 was $63,500. It's an astronomical increase in cost. And then you've got interest rates had more than doubled for paper car buyers. And then you had longer terms in order to make that payment palatable. You're talking about $1,000 a month to buy a vehicle like that. I'm surprised that more hasn't been talked about with the new car market, just because it's really helped prop up the used car market, because there's a scarcity of decent used vehicles, and they're getting higher dollar amounts than ever before. Even when we had the supply chain problems of 19, 20, 21, it's still now they've priced themselves out of the market. It doesn't matter if they've probably got parts in excess, but if nobody will buy the stuff, I mean, they're practically giving away Gladiators.
That's a great point, John, because I remember the advertising, and Larry, you can chime in on this, but we both kind of rode the wave of the JK taking off, going from 75,000 annual units to 250,000 annual units. And but the marketing, and I remember very specifically, the marketing in those early days was, this is a inexpensive, practical, highly capable convertible for the family. And it was a huge part of it. And it's what exploded the market for all of us. I mean, Larry, you can chime in on that, but because you saw the same thing, right?
Right, I agree. I think it was the recession of 2008, and the Jeep Wrangler JK came out in early 9, or was it 8? I forget now. I've been out of the business for a while, so
you're an old man. I understand.
Yeah,
Too many Mai Tais.
But when I first bought Poison Spider, Clifton said, you really need to focus on the TJ. That's the bread and butter. And the JK, I just don't think these guys are the off-roaders, and they may not ever want these hardcore parts. And it's funny how quickly that changed. I bought late 08, early 09, and then the JK became popular, and then TJ and YJ stuff became, a fraction of the gross sales within, a year or two of the JK coming out. And for me, it was, a lot of these people in 2008 had, they're firemen, they bought a house, they financed a boat, the house went up so much that they refinanced the house and bought a boat and a sand car and a big dually and a fifth wheel. And then market crashed and they lost everything, but they still kind of had a taste of that off-road and wanted to figure out, how do I get back into this? Well, if I buy this Jeep for my wife to drive to work every day, we got something we can take out on the weekend. And because it's got 4 doors, we take the whole family. I think it really changed the market. And I think having a whole family go on an event instead of just dad and his hunting buddies going out in a Jeep really loosened purse strings on families' budgets when it was a family affair now. And
right. Well, and Dennis, I mean, for you, how are you seeing 2024 pan out? I mean, how much you already said you kind of still had growth in 2023, but how much are you seeing this deficit, this double-digit deficit in sales affect you?
As far as the Jeep sales?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously, if we've got less product to work on out there, that'll rolling off the showroom floor and people needing to modify them, that's definitely going to impact all of us. I saw, like John was talking, I saw this graph that showed different manufacturers and length of time that their vehicles were sitting on the lots. And right at the top of that graph was Dodge Rams, and they were like 330 something days sitting there, and right next to them was Gladiators, and they were coming in at 200. These, we're knocking on a year for these things sitting on the lot. And just like it's been said here, I think it's a combination. The price went up on them, and the price went up just because of inflation, but also because started throwing bells and whistles at this stuff to just make it more, I don't know, consumer friendly for the demographic that was starting to get into Jeeps. You know, they needed heated steering wheels, they wanted power seats, they need the big stereo, you know. So all these things really add to the cost of a Jeep compared to what we used to see in a TJ, for crying out loud. You know, there was none of that stuff. So the cost was considerably less. So that cost plus that interest, holy cow. Yeah. It's just at some point there's a break point where people could just not afford it. And I think we hit that.
Yeah, so from a marketing standpoint, I mean, we're all guys that pay attention to things. What I've found in myself, I just don't feel like Jeep is actually even doing any marketing that's worthwhile or even advertising. I can't remember the last time I saw a Jeep ad pop up to try to sell this product.
Did you do any kind of racing? I mean, you look what Ford did with that Bronco. Just, you know, yeah, we got lightly modified Broncos winning everything at the King, lightly modified. but bottom line, you know, they put it out there, and that whole marketing campaign was probably one of the biggest fails on earth, just because they got it all done and then you couldn't buy one. So they all had their issues, but got to hand it to them for getting out there in the racing. You know, the guy that buys that minivan, yeah, it's the same company that makes that Hellcat, you know. So that's why I bought my Dodge minivan.
Right,
so, you know,
well, some of the early ads I saw for the jail, what was it, the Jeremy Renner? I'm going to drive my Jeep so I can go play some music at a honky bar and a honky tonk. And I'm like, who cares about Jeremy Renner playing music? You know, I feel like these marketing guys over at Jeep started to saying, what do we do for marketing? Who do you want to meet? Let's hire that guy. It's not really versus your Jeep is for your family. I feel like they failed considerably in their marketing campaigns.
Yeah, that's always you know, you guys have been there. We'll do a video and you're thinking that was pretty amazing. Comes out and like nothing. And then you do some video and it's like, that was a joke. And bam, it just takes off. I don't know how you outguess that stuff.
You just gotta get Dennis Wood out there as a spokesperson for Jeep. Then we'll start selling stuff. So talking about it, we've already talked about events, and it was kind of one of the things I wanted to make sure to discuss about the events. You know, you're seeing the growing events, you're seeing changes in events, and therefore kind of in the consumers and what their growth is, which is what's interesting for us. I mean, the reality is there is a growth of the enthusiast market. There isn't a growth of our lifestyle, and I think that's great. But also this shift between rock crawling to overlanding, and that shift within the community in the world. Like, John, I mean, your magazine's all about crawl, right? But are you seeing a readership shift towards wanting more information about just the demographic change towards more just fire roads and enjoying camping and that lifestyle?
I don't know that it's, first of all, the demographic is 45 to 54-year-old men. That's my primary. And it's,
we're all old farts then, in other words. Yeah.
Yeah. They're 83% Jeep owners. So I think with crawl, they're seeing a lot of tech and features that they can bring components of those pieces into their own builds. And maybe they only want to do fire roads. Maybe they really don't want to. Maybe the Rubicon is the big bucket list item, and after that, they don't really care about, you know, hardcore trails. I don't know. But I think at the end of the day, they see it's still aspirational. I could do that because my rig is capable enough to do that, but I don't have to do that because I don't need to prove anything. If that makes sense.
Totally. Larry, how about you, with your guys coming out and renting your vehicles or going on trips with you? Are you seeing a change in what they're desiring?
So, yeah, what we do is not, we don't do Jeep rentals. We do Jeep tours where people actually ride in our vehicles. And majority of our consumers are not Jeepers. It's people that, have never been off-road in their life, and they're blown away by a rough dirt road. And people will jump out and take pictures of cattle guards because they've never seen one before in their lives. I mean, that's the client that we have. And so that it's a slightly different business model than what I had before, where I was trying to
slightly.
And for us, like a Poison Spider, even when I got in the Jeep, and I bought my first Jeep because I saw a guy camping with his family in some ghost town. I thought, man, that's really cool. So it was just a machine that would get me to the destination. And then as I started getting into the actual driving, for me, the experience was the driving, not necessarily the destination. So, I live an hour from the Hammers, and, those trails don't go anywhere. They go up and come back, and you back at the lake bed when you're done. So there was no destination. It was just all about the driving experience. And I'm hoping that a lot of these people that are into the overland because of that destination or that Instagram shot they're trying to get of that overlook will start enjoying the process of actually driving their vehicles and want to start doing a little bit more. And then people will want to see Crawl Magazine and buy armor and suspension pieces and to help them tackle those trails.
Gateway drug.
Yeah. So overlanding could be the gateway drug into rock crawling.
I like that. Well, that gets into that whole rock landing world, right?
Yes.
The more and more guys getting out there and doing it, like you go on a trip with Corey and Jesse, you better have a little bit of capable rig, because you may be out in the middle of Death Valley, but you're not staying on the higher highway. Dennis, how about you? Are your customer base kind of expanding out from just pure rock crawling to guys who just simply want to have a suspension on their rig for overlanding?
Yeah, absolutely. And different parts of the country is where you really see that difference, where you go on the East Coast and there's little ducks everywhere and people are painting their door handles pink, but they're still just loving their Jeep, and they just throw all this bling at it and cruise it around. And so there's a definite different demographic as far as what they're using their Jeeps to do. But you move in and get in some of the areas where there's actually somewhere to wheel, and they may start out doing those kinds of things, and then once they experience the drive, like Larry was saying, where they go out and do that overland thing, and then next thing you know, I went over that trail. I wonder if I could do that one. Well, I could if I just did this. So I think there's definitely that trickle down that comes from just going out and using your Jeep. You just see the capabilities that guy had when he went over that obstacle so much easier than I did. That's the Jeeper thing. It's like, well, I could do that. That's just us.
Right.
We're gonna make our rig big and bad, and whether it's to be pretty or whether it's to be functional, I don't know that it matters. Just build it what you want it to do, and we'll be happy to help you out with whatever you need.
Nice. So we're kind of getting towards the end of what we wanted to talk about. I know there's some other things to hit on. I do want to know what about 2024 and what you guys are all planning. Like, what's your big vision for 2024? Not only for you, maybe for your company, for what you're doing, trails you want to hit. Like, what's the big plan for 2024? I'll get to Corey and Jesse last because I pretty much know their answer. But John, what about you? What's your big plan for 2024?
Well, the spring is Easter Jeep Safari. It's the last week of March this year. And that'll be the start of probably 3 months on the road.
Wow.
For Crawl Across America. And I've planned about the first half of it into deep April, early May, and that covers nearly 3,500 miles and probably a dozen states. We're going to do a full New England swing, East Coast, and Upper Midwest. So it's going to be a hoot. It's always a challenge to actually have to put out a issue of the magazine while we're on the road. so that'll be fun. But yeah, we're just going to take the Great White Wonder Bus out on the road and hope that we can get down to where the states are that have cheap diesel.
Does that exist any place anymore?
The Southeast isn't bad. I mean, everything.
In other words, we won't see you in California anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally, I can see the "Welcome to California" sign from my house here in Nevada, and I know it's 75 cents a gallon more 150 feet from me. Yeah, we're at what, $4.35 a gallon for diesel here, and I know it's over $5 just up the highway.
Well, don't get a McDonald's or anything here too, because they're about to pass that law. So it's like fast food. If you have over 200 units, it's $20 an hour minimum. No. Yeah. So, automation coming soon to a fast food near you. Dennis, what do you see for 2024?
We're looking at as far as the marketing side of it, we're in with the Jeep Jamboree again this year, so we'll look at going out and doing some events with them. So we'll travel a little bit more, just US wise. We haven't done any international since the Rona flared up, so I still don't see probably any international happening for another year, but we will probably hit it harder. And like John was saying, that the gas price really affects things. So I'll probably only make one trip clear back to the East Coast driving. Then the other ones, when we fly back, I'll fly back into events and do it that way. So that helps us. But growth wise and what we're looking at, new product wise and all that, it's real heavy on the JL side of things. JL, JT, our coilovers that we came out with are, that's one of those things that's crazy because they're so much money to do, and people are standing in line just to, you can't build them fast enough. It's pretty amazing to see that. But I've never been a coilover fan just because all the noise and stuff, but they fixed all that and they're pretty amazing. So I'm like, all right, good on you. Go for it if you can swing it. So that kind of stuff is still there. So that's more on the heavier use side. And then on the other side of it, interior cargo racks, tray tables, that kind of stuff that's more for the overland crowd and just traveling, that kind of stuff. So we'll hit that little niche as well. Then I don't know what we're going to have as far as what Wheel Pros / Hoonigan is going to throw at us, because they'll give us some, whether or not any of these other brands will come into us to take care of and come under our stewardship. But we'll see how that all flows. So I don't know exactly how that's going to fly. But bottom line, I don't think we're going to see tons of big growth or anything, but maybe with some of these new products on the Falcon side and Lift, it will still maintain. It should be a reasonable year. I don't think we're looking at the gloom and doom quite yet.
Well, it's always interesting. I know that we have seen it being affected on a election year. It's very interesting for our crowd because they tend to be patriotic, American, that sort of, many of our customers are definitely that strong base. And so when there is when election year comes and there's uncertainty, where's my dollar going to go? Where's my dollar going to go? And do I keep it? Do I prep it? So I guess our big marketing campaign will all be about just be a prepper. Just be a prepper. Get your Jeep built. Be a prepper. Larry, how about you? So what do you see 2024?
So for us, 2023 slowed down quite a bit. It was for the tour business. The national parks had record numbers from 20 to 22, but I think that's run its course. It was almost all domestic for several years, and but we haven't seen the international travelers come back yet. And talking to our international travel agents, they're saying it's too expensive to come to America. Airfare is
wow.
crazy. The fuel is crazy. The room rates are crazy. And most of them are just not doing it until things change.
Wow.
So
I thought about that.
Yeah, losing that big push of domestic travelers, like the national park numbers are down everywhere also because of there was such a huge uptick that people that maybe only go to a national park once in a lifetime have done it, during COVID years and have moved on to other experiences, I guess. So between that and everything getting more expensive, including our insurance, right? Our auto insurance doubled this year. So that was one of our largest expenses. So, we're going to have to look at, what do we do? What do we do from here? Do we start? We did an event for BFG, which was a little bit more high end experience than what we're doing now, where, everything was catered. There was meals, there was accommodations included, and it was a couple-day event. And it seems like there might still be some money in that. So, we might start looking at different tour experiences. Our numbers in 23 were still better than 19, but when you were used to 22 or 2021 and 22 numbers, it was a little shocking. So, but I keep thinking the economy is about ready to dump, and every year it gets better. So I'm done trying to outguess that. And I just hope that, like our travel agents are saying Springdale, which is the local town outside of Zion, and like Jackson, Wyoming, or Jackson Hole are two huge destinations for international travelers, but both of them, the room rates are so high that they're just not coming. And I think until that settles down, I think it'll be a quieter year again in 24.
The question is, what's going to take to settle that down? Because with minimum wage up and everything else up and the cost to do everything up, I don't know how they can bring the prices down.
I think the only saving grace we have in Southern Utah with hotel rates is they're building RV parks and hotels at an alarming rate. I mean, they are, and vacation rentals. I mean, it's so saturated, especially in our little town. I mean, it's just about everything being built is a vacation rental or hotel or RV park. We have our little town of 600 could potentially have 3,000 people staying in it every night. With all the RV parks and Airbnbs and VRBOs and hotels, but there's one restaurant, and no gas stations, nothing to service these people. But there's a lot of choices now for people, so I think the rates hopefully will have to start reflecting that, the room rates.
That makes sense. Corey and Jesse, how about you? What's besides the long list of tasks that you have from Metal Cloak, what's your goals for 2024?
It's been. I mean, this whole year has been kind of. 2023 was probably the busiest we've been in a long time as far as events and shows and that kind of thing. It's funny you guys brought up the hotel prices and stuff. I immediately just think of Moab, and we all thought, how can this sustain itself? And Moab has built how many hotels in the last, there was a moratorium on new hotels. They released it because they couldn't find anybody to work them. And then they continued to build hotels, and they're all $300 a night minimum. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. And yet every year we go to Easter Jeep Safari, it's packed, can't get a room, everything's full. So, I mean, we hit a lot of places last year. We were on the road 254 days in a hotel last year. I don't know that that'll change a lot this year. We tend to kind of like that life for now. The adventure side, though, is still our passion. I mean, you guys all know, we love Death Valley and some of the places that we get to take people and experience. And the national parks, like you guys were talking as well, they got hit hard. They had a couple of really bad floods. I think it's funny. They have a 15 or a 50-year flood now, about twice a year. So I'm not sure how that plays out, but yeah, I mean, we we get to see our friends and do what we enjoy by going back across country, because we have so many off-road enthusiast friends and family. I mean, we were down in Oklahoma this last weekend and stopped by for a small Jeep club event, and there was 150 Jeeps at this small club event. We can't get 20 to show up when the weather's nice, and it was, this is 6 o'clock at night. It's dark outside, and there's 150 rigs. Shout out to all the Oklahoma City,
My Oklahoma peeps.
yeah, all of Jesse's friends. And again, we stop by and we get to see some really near and dear friends of ours that we don't get to see all the time. So yeah, that's what makes it all worthwhile, right? I mean, we can go to these big events and do the show thing, but it's getting to spend some time with the folks that really matter to us all. I think that's what's becoming more important. And we are destination people still. The driving experience, of course, is part of that. I mean, we wouldn't be involved in the industry, but hopefully we can kind of share that and we convey that to new Jeepers and show them that, I mean, if you just want to build your Jeep and go to the mall, or, I mean, that's totally fine. If you want to build it with 28-inch wheels and I get it. It's just a different aspect of our industry. So yeah, like going to different parts of the country, we see some more overlanding rigs in certain areas. You go down to Florida and there's Gladiators everywhere. You come back across the states and you go, well, they must all be in Florida. So yeah, 2024 will be busy, I think, again.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate everybody being here. Before I go, I have one thing for Larry. Scott Becker promised me to ask you about Mai Tais and scooters.
So
how many Mai Tais did you have before you got back on those scooters?
Oh God,
a lot, because they were really good Mai Tais.
Yeah, they were really good. We've been struggling finding a delicious drink, and we found a hotel bar that had delicious drinks right on, this crystal clear lagoon. And we had a few drinks there, got in the pool, and we were going to get back in the scooters and go back. And then it just started pouring. So we thought, we'll just wait out the rain. Waited it out in the pool for a while and just got harder and harder and harder. We finally went back in the restaurant and said, we're just going to sit down here and have a drink until the rain stops. And I don't know, another 3 or 4 later, the rain had to stop. Then it was time to get the scooters back. So it was an experience. Yeah, but I think the Mai Tais helped limit the amount of pain that the raindrops were inflicting, and probably made it a much funner experience than it really was. It just seemed like it should have been memorable, but it's probably the funnest thing I've done so far.
That's awesome.
On this trip.
That's awesome.
Besides jet skiing yesterday out in Bora Bora, that was pretty amazing too.
Living the life. That's awesome. Well, hey, for all of our guests, really appreciate it. There's probably so much more we could talk about and so much more time we could spend doing this. And I almost feel like we should do this every week. But that being said, we come to the end of our time. Corey, Jesse, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I don't recommend traveling in the wintertime. We just we spent 29 hours on the road that should have taken us 14. So it was twice as long.
Should all just spend our time in Bora Bora with Larry.
You're right.
I need it.
Everybody be prepared. If you're driving across country, there's a whole bunch of more storms coming our way. Be prepared. We were lucky. We had cell service. We had plenty of fuel. We had water and snacks in the Jeep. And we could have very well, we spent 10 hours on the highway in a blizzard. So just be prepared out there, and a shout out to everybody in Oklahoma and Texas that reached out to us and made sure we were okay. That was pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
Before we go, I think there's a special guest Hall of Fame off-roader swimming over from his over the water, swimming over from his over the water hut to our over the water hut.
Is that how you travel between huts? Just hop in the water and swim? Nice.
Scooter rider.
Hey.
For all of our listeners, this is Lance Clifford, the infamous founder of Pirate 4x4 and JK Owners, and now just an all around, like, racer, Hall of Famer. I mean,
He's
how
the
you doing, man?
Tread lightly.
New Tread Lightly.
Yeah, that's right.
Board director.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. When there's a guy who's putting his effort where his mouth is. I mean, that's awesome. It's always been about trails. We didn't even get a chance to talk about land use, which is a big issue. I feel like we should come together on an episode that is just land use focused, because we can burn an hour and a half on it. Obviously, we have the issues in Moab that we're fighting, issues at Oceano Dunes, all this area.
Everywhere.
But Lance, good to see you, buddy.
It's good to be here. Easy swim over.
Yeah.
How was that massage?
It was amazing.
Life changing.
Yes.
Wow. That kind of massage, huh?
Yes,
They did that in Bora Bora.
We'll leave it at that.
Oh, Lord.
Well, hey, with that being said, yeah, we've got to commit. I'm committing right now. We got to get Dennis on for his own episode just to have it. And we got to get Lance on. I mean, you haven't been on the show yet. We got to get you on just to talk about everything you're doing. So let's get that. Who books our we don't even, that's what we need a booking agent.
My people get with your people, and
There we go. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right. That's it. All right. Well, hey, for Modern Jeepers, we appreciate you joining us for this another great episode. This year has got all kinds of stuff going on, and we always commit this, and then somehow at some point we drop it, but we do plan on having more guests. We're trying to figure out what the vision for the Modern Jeeper show is going to be in 2024, and we'll be sharing that with you soon. So from me to you, appreciate you, love you, and we'll see you on the trails.
cheers, guys.
It's great to see you guys.
Good night.
Yeah. Thanks.
Back to the Mai Tais.
Adios.